And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, April 24th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about Jerry Jones, some of his recent comments regarding the Cowboys offseason, as well as contract negotiations with some of their star players in Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, and CeeDee Lamb. So that I know that's something we've been talking about in recent weeks, but we're going to continue that discussion in just a little bit. Then another topic that has been discussed a lot on my show as well as other shows is the Brandon Ayuk trade rumors. So there's some things that I wanted to touch upon that I saw with that, as well as John Lynch and his comments on drafting Trey Lance and how that situation unfolded and how ultimately Brock Purdy became the starter. So we'll get into that as well. Then we'll talk about the Cardinals and them being open to trading the number 4 overall pick, but it might not necessarily happen. Well, it's going to happen when they're on the clock. It's not going to happen anytime before that, since we only got today and the draft is tomorrow night. So we'll also talk about that as well. And then we'll talk about the Steelers. We'll talk about General Manager Omar Khan and him talking about the possibility of the Steelers maybe taking a quarterback in this draft. So we'll get into that to end off the show. So with that being said now, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Jerry Jones, which has been a popular topic recently. And I know a lot of people love the Cowboys, so we're gonna do that. So with Jerry Jones now, he talked about a couple things. I know the all-in statement that he said about this Cowboys season has really gained traction, and many people have been outraged. Really, Cowboys fans have been outraged because the Cowboys really didn't do anything other than signed Eric Kendricks, a linebacker, and they brought back their long snapper. And when you have a statement like that and you say you're all in and that's what you end up doing, yeah, you're going to get complaints. But we still have the draft. So I wanted to get into some of the quotes from Jerry Jones, a couple of articles I had from Bleacher Report. So this is what Jerry Jones had to say. And he said, this is on Tuesday, "We're very proud of this roster. We feel very, very good about the promise of this roster this season. We feel great about what we've been in free agency. We're all in." Then some other quotes as well. Or I guess that might be actually, no. Is that the only quote from this article? I thought there was another one in here. Yeah, well, that's what he basically said about the roster. And I know I have another article here that talks about the contract negotiation, so we'll get into that as well. So this is what he said about the contract negotiations now with Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. He said, "If you got trouble with when the timing is around here, it's because I'm not ready to go. You may be working on contracts and not moving anything but your eyebrows. Who in the world would think that we're not working on it? I work on it. It pops up at 2 in the morning sometimes when you're actually questioning is why don't you have something done and negotiated and put in the drawer? Well, we'd like to see more leaves fall. We'd like to see some more action. It's called option quarterback. I've spent my life playing option quarterback. I want to see more cards played." Kind of interesting way to word talk. Well, now he's talking about Dak, but this is what he also said. "We want Dak Prescott, and that's that." So they're going to try to work out a deal. I know I talked earlier about Dak being open to playing with another team next year, and I think that definitely is a strong possibility. But he also did say he doesn't necessarily want to be the highest paid quarterback. So I think that could also like help the Cowboys out. They can negotiate on a deal that works best for both sides, and he sticks around. But there is a chance that he could end up going elsewhere. But yeah, so basically Jerry Jones, he doubled down on the all-in mentality that the Cowboys are all in, even though they really haven't done that much. But where it's going to come is through the draft. And we'll see what kind of moves that they end up making. But I'm not really. I mean, the Cowboys, I think for me, they're still going to be a good team next year. It's just they didn't really get better. Where did they get better? They kind of stayed the same. They changed defensive coordinators because Dan Quinn left. You lost Tony Pollard. You lost some guys that went to Washington, followed Dan Quinn. Where did they get better? And on top of that, you got some big decisions to make. Because CeeDee Lamb might put some pressure on you because he could hold out. And you don't want that to carry into the regular season. Again, that is ways away. I mean, they can get a new deal done. But you don't want CeeDee Lamb holding out. And then you got Dak Prescott to worry about. And Micah Parsons eventually as well. So, but this is what Jerry Jones does. And I've gotten comments from Cowboys fans on some of my videos. I actually wanted to I'll pull one of them up because this was about the whole all-in thing. So I want to see if I can find it. But because I talked about the all-in stuff, and someone basically said it's just to make headlines. But I want to see if I can find it. I forget which YouTube account it was under, but it basically was just Jerry Jones likes to make headlines. That's really what it was. Let's see. Oh wait, here we go. Yeah, here's the strategy. This is from 5 days ago. This is from Mike Patelli 146. He said, "Yes, here's the strategy." Because the title of the show from this was from last week. Dallas Cowboys quiet offseason strategy revealed. That was the title of the stream. And he said, "Yes, here's the strategy. Jerry Jones doesn't care about winning Super Bowls. He cares about Dallas being talked about. He believes that keeps his highest worth franchise significant." Now, again, I don't know if he's a Cowboys fan, but can't necessarily disagree with him because Jerry Jones does like to talk. And that's really all the Cowboys have been about in recent years, is just a lot of talking. They talk the talk, but they don't really walk the walk because you get to the playoffs and you're either one and done, or you get to the second round and you lose. So, and I mean, but the other thing too is, what do you want them to say? Oh yeah, we stink. We didn't do anything. Don't watch us. Don't come to our games. Honestly, it's kind of the same thing with the Yankees. With their ownership. Like, what do you want them to say? That they're a bad product? I mean, the Cowboys haven't won anything. That doesn't mean that they've been a bad team. Yeah, they've had some rough years. I know 2020 was rough, but a lot of that had to do with Dak getting hurt. 2019 wasn't good either. They missed the playoffs. I mean, I think Dak had a good year, but they didn't make the playoffs. And they're a team that, for the most part, consistently makes the playoffs every year. But they don't do anything. So that's why this draft, they really got to nail this draft, because if they don't, the fan base is going to be really upset. And I've said this, the Cowboys do a nice job at drafting. So that means that, they probably will draft some good players here, with the draft being upon us. But it's got to, I mean, you can't do what the fan base wants. So if they go different routes with certain picks and the fan base has other ideas and they're upset, you're not going to do what the fans want. But I'm just saying they're going to draft some impact players in this draft. I feel like. And if not, well, that's going to be a problem. So, but like I was saying, fan base can want certain guys. The team's going to want to draft certain guys. So that's we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, the draft is upon us, and really looking forward to it. Tomorrow night, first round is tomorrow. Friday you got rounds 2 and 3, and then 4 through 7 Saturday. So it should be fun. Should be fun, and there's going to be some big things happening. Like I said, I think yesterday, you're definitely going to see trades. You're definitely going to see that the first night. There's going to be teams moving up, moving down. It's going to happen. That's the way it looks. And we'll talk about one of those teams that could be moving down later in the show with the Cardinals. So, but with the Cowboys, back to the original point, it definitely for the fan base has to be annoying when you have someone in the organization saying something when it's going to be interpreted differently. When you say you're going to go all in, well, that should mean that you're going to bring in more than just a linebacker who actually was originally going to sign with a different team. Because I think Eric Kendricks was going to sign with, what was it, the 49ers? And then he ended up changing his mind and signing with the Cowboys. Now, Mike Zimmer is there, and Mike Zimmer was the coach of the Vikings when Eric Kendricks was there, so that makes sense. But Eric Kendricks almost went to another team. But now he's with the Cowboys. And like I said, they re-signed their long snapper, but you lost guys to Washington, and you had to cut some guys too. Guys had to retire. Lane Vander Esch had to retire. They cut Michael Gallup. Now, Michael Gallup was kind of just the third wide receiver. So, I mean, Cowboys could end up maybe drafting a receiver late. That's possible. Running back, you figure they could address that. They did bring in Royce Freeman. That was actually another move that they made. They did bring in Royce Freeman to add to the backfield. So you figure maybe they draft one. Now, it's not really that loaded of a running back class from at least what I heard. Receiver class, it's loaded. But we'll see. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. The draft's gonna be interesting with the Cowboys, and we'll see how they're able to figure out these contract stuff with their star players, and if they're going to be able to keep all three of them. Now, Jerry Jones did say, like I said before, with this quote, that they want Dak Prescott. But maybe they don't want him as much as maybe people think. And Dak ends up going elsewhere, and Cowboys are going to have to figure out something else at quarterback. Now, we're going to talk about Trey Lance later in the show, but like I've been saying, he's on the roster. So if Dak ends up leaving, maybe Trey Lance gets another shot. But again, this is down the line. So, I mean, they could end up paying Dak, and Trey Lance might have to look for an opportunity elsewhere. I feel like he's going to get another shot. Because he really didn't get a chance. I mean, he did, but ended up getting hurt, unfortunately. So, I feel like eventually you're going to see him start some games at some point. I don't know if it's going to be with Dallas or another team, but, I mean, look at Zach Wilson. He ended up going to another team. He might get a shot with Denver. Maybe. So if Zach Wilson maybe gets another chance, why can't Trey Lance? Trey Lance, like I said, Trey Lance has gotten hurt. So we'll keep an eye on it. But let me know what you guys think about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. What do you guys think they're going to do in the draft? And also just about what we talked about with their 3-star players. Are they going to be able to keep everybody? What do you think about Jerry Jones's all-in comments? All that, let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our first break of the show, We are going to talk about the 49ers. We'll talk about more Brandon Ayuk trade rumors, as well as John Lynch, the general manager, reflecting on some past draft decisions, mainly, like I mentioned, drafting Trey Lance and how all that played out. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.